Cool, Ron.
All right, so this week the prompt is about which approach we felt best suited us, or we felt that was the best. I felt that actually I have like a combination of the two. I think the trait and the situational approach I felt were the best because it honestly does depend on the task and who's best suited for that specific task, and definitely the lecture was stating that traits do influence how we view leadership. So I think it's a combination of the two, but more so the situational approach than anything. So
Yeah, I actually really, there were certain parts of the situational and the traits that I definitely agreed with, but I really liked the transformational approach.
okay,
Um, I thought the concept of someone being like a visionary leader was really cool, and being energizing and meaningful leadership. That's to me is the kind of leader that I would want to be, or probably that I would want to work under. Um, Mostly because to me it came off as a leader that's super engaged with the people they're working with. Um, and I liked the focus on the creative process and the trust involved in that too. But I've definitely experienced situational leadership too, where you kind of just fall into it, and that can be really great as well.
I looked kind of at the question as like just as all leaders encompassing. So like those ones I think were like better kind of leaders are those approaches. Whereas I really like the functional approach and just that it's whoever assumes those like leadership kind of roles. So like it gave the example of a car accident and all these people witness it. That would help and take control and be like, okay, this needs to happen, this needs to happen. But I think a lot of times those sometimes are the quiet people who have a lot of knowledge on the situation, and it's just the person who's confident.
Hmm.
yeah, and
Gonna go, step up to
yeah,
the plate. And so I think that approach was easily relatable for me because I think there's so many bad leaders out there, but there's still leaders. And same with good leaders. They step up, they don't hesitate, they're not waiting for. So I really like that approach and just that how applicable it was to the world. And I
okay,
also really liked the how it kind of went with that, I think, because charismatic was all about the situation it was in and the context. And so it's kind of like there's this crazy situation, there's a crisis, and so someone steps up with a plate and is a leader. And I think that's kind of goes with functional as well. So those two I really liked.
yeah.
Yeah.
And just wanted to add, and you can all pretty much all tie it into your individual traits. So, like, definitely, if you're extrovert, introvert, you're more sociable in particular situations. So, I think it all like ties into. Not saying it all ties into the trait approach, but again, traits do have the biggest influence on how people view a leader. To me, anyway. Yeah.
Hmm.
That makes me think that question though is kind of just opinionated. Like I don't I guess that's why there's so many approaches
Yeah.
because there's not any like one that's like this is how it is. There's so
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, the one thing that put me off about the charismatic approach is the fact that it's not you can't um, it's not like transformative. So if one leader is charismatic and it's in an organization, they can't transfer that to the next leader that comes up. So if the next person doesn't have that strong leadership style, then the group and the system can break down. That was the one thing that kind of put me off about that one.
mhm.
Otherwise, I did really like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And
talk. Oh, sorry. Do you have something to say?
oh no, go ahead.
Okay, just about how like leaders can motivate um, their followers was the other part of the question, and I just think I really like how the text talked about it, how like there's different kinds of followers. Like there's either ones who are and willing and not capable, and then capable and not willing. They describe them like different levels. And I liked how it talked about how like there's different kinds, like whether it's participatory leadership or there's more like kind of goes back to authoritarian democratic, but it depends on each follower how you act.
Yeah,
Right.
and yeah, so yeah, it depends on like some people who rather just take instructions, not provide any feedback, or some people are like passive aggressive, um, and other people, yeah, they like to give constructive criticism, see how they think the situation is, and some leaders like that, and some don't. So
Yeah. Do you think more often the leadership style influences the followers, the way they behave, or the way the followers behave influences the way the leader behaves? Do you think there's a trend, like in our society?
um, I think it's a two-way street, but I definitely think since they're the leader, they have to like insinuate the actions based on
Yeah.
what they do, the followers are going to react to that, and
Yeah.
then vice versa. So, and then once the leader sees how the followers react to their type of leadership styles, they can either adjust or continue what they're doing. So
Yeah.
it's they like, again, it's two-way street, I think.
But I agree with that, but you could also look at it the different way. Like a lot of major leaders in like corporations, before they assume that role, they'll like be a follower. They will be in the
Yeah.
company. They'll like start, and observe how everything is, how the followers act, and then they'll become leader and lead off of how they saw them following.
Right.
So then I
Yeah.
think it will change. Then throughout the years of the company, it can go back and forth to balance, but I think a lot of times it starts how the followers are. If
Yeah.
you're gonna.
Yeah, and that way it would like correlate if you like within the company, but if like for some like if they hire somebody from outside and then that outside person doesn't know the culture within that particular company, so they'll try to implement their leadership style. So it all depends on like what type of company. Do they hire within, do they promote within, or do they hire like with from people outside? So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And I think ideally you want to be able to, both sides want to be able to react to the other and work together.
Yeah, ideally. Yeah, but um actually lost my train of thought right now. So never mind.
It'll come back.
Maybe. All right, anything you want to add, Diane?
Um, well, I gave my 2 cents on that, but I also believe that I guess with that comes more experience. The leaders knowing how to react to each kind of employee. I don't know if that's something that's trained or is natural, or it's both. Like, how do you? I think it's a lot more training than natural to know how to behave to every employee, like follower. Or do you guys think that that's something that could be natural?
I
I
think
think
it's both.
yeah, I think it's both because you're always going to have to adjust to different people, whether like you're meeting like a new group of friends or like new coworkers, new like fellow classmates. Like you're always going to have to adjust to how like what their personality is. But yeah, I think it's both.
Definitely. Um, any other approaches that you guys want to talk about or that stood out to you? I think we pretty much covered them.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I'm good.
Good.
I think it's interesting that we all liked a different one.
Right. You would
Yeah,
think it's like a generalized kind of thing. You would think leadership in the ideal is a certain way and how it should be, and
Mm-hmm.
but everyone's
yeah,
different.
and it just proves that again, people have different opinions, and there's not one type of leadership that you have to approach, or one type of approach. So yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Well, good job.